tonight we bring our series of exclusive reports, JFK, the West Texas Connection, to a close. But due to overwhelming response from you, we will continue researching what we found out and will update you in the coming weeks. During one particular segment of our series, we sent Big Two's Mike Gibson to Van Horn. That's where Midlander Rickie White remembers going with his father on what he thought were hunting trips. But this is the same place some believe Kennedy's assassins may have trained. On his first trip to Van Horn, Mike Gibson discovered what experts say is high-powered communication equipment. And recently, you made another trip back there, Mike, at the recommendation of local law enforcement officials. I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks. Becky, I did travel back to the ranch where we first found the radio equipment. We'd been warned that if we didn't go back and try to get the radio, it would soon be gone. So we went to the ranch owner, and he agreed to let us take the items and bring them back for close examination by our radio equipment experts. We now have the communication system in a safe place. We hope that the high-powered equipment can be hooked up and tried out. Now, if this can be done, maybe we'll be able to find out for sure what the communication system was used for. Reporting from the newsroom, Mike Gibson, Big 2 News.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. Since our series began, we have received important information, not only from researchers across the country, but from people right here in the Permian Basin who have watched our series and have come forward to tell us what they know. And to all of you, thank you for what you've shared with us. And now, part 12 of our series, JFK, the West Texas Connection. It's been almost 30 years since the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, and while America was told Lee Harvey Oswald was the man responsible for his death, not everyone would believe it.
Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
I've searched and searched for 30 years trying to find one small item that would convince me that Lee Harvey Oswald did it as the government said. That doesn't exist, and the evidence points to multiple shooters, therefore a conspiracy and a cover-up, which means somebody's in control of what we know about this. And if they're in control, then we need to be concerned, and I am.
Researchers believe that Midlander Rickie White's father, Roscoe Anthony White, was one of several gunmen that fateful day in Dealey Plaza. JFK Assassination Center Director Larry Howard served as the conspiracy consultant to Oliver Stone on the movie JFK.
I was the one that positioned the gunman in Dealey Plaza. That was my job. And I put the gunman, one of them, behind the picket fence with the house the police said someone was, the witnesses said someone was, and then Roscoe said he was, because he marked in the green book where he was standing.
The Green Book is what researchers call the Witness Elimination Book, believed to be a list of the people Roscoe White had murdered. Researchers say the fact that Roscoe knew Lee Harvey Oswald and had served with him in the Marines, that Roscoe had joined the Dallas Police Department just prior to the assassination, and the fact that his wife Geneva once worked for Jack Ruby add up to more than just a coincidence. But proving it, they say, has been difficult, since everyone involved has died, including Roscoe and Geneva White. But Howard says there's still hope that someone out there knows something that will tie it all together.
If we solve this case, it's going to be someone walking through the door just like Rickie White did and telling us one thing about it.
Howard says after Rickie first told of his father's possible involvement in the assassination during a news conference in 1990 and the release of Oliver Stone's movie JFK a year later, more and more people have called or come into the center to tell what they know.
The first man that came to me used to work in the CIA. It was in on the Bay of Pigs invasion. And in the summer of 1963, he came to Dallas and tried to buy some guns from Roscoe White. They then went together to see General Walker, who was living in Dallas at the time, to try to get some financing for the projects that we're working on.
Howard says another man owned a nightclub and he walked into the center with his wife, telling Howard Jack Ruby was his best friend.
He said in early November of '63, Jack Ruby brought someone into his club, said, I want you to meet a good friend of mine, Roscoe White. The next man was a witness in Dealey Plaza. He was across the street from where Old Man Sabura was filming, and he fell to the ground when the shots were fired, and then he hambled on behind the picket fence where he heard the shots come from in the puff of smoke, and he was encountered by a Secret Service man with Secret Service credentials telling him to get away. The man had a rifle stuck under his coat. He was shown 10 photographs. Of the 10 photographs, he picked one out as being the man that encountered him, and it was Roscoe White.
Howard says another witness said she was filming in Dealey Plaza that day and was panning toward the grassy knoll.
And her camera was confiscated by the FBI the next day, and the film never been seen. But she saw Roscoe White walking down the steps from the grassy knoll area to Elm Street after the shots were fired, and she recognized him as Geneva's husband, because she worked for Jack Ruby herself. The next witness came forward. He's a principal at one of the high schools in Dallas, and was chosen to go on the shuttle flight that exploded if that girl had gotten sick. Very credible. And he was best friends with J.D. Tippet's son. And he said 3 weeks before the assassination, a man came to the Tippet house and they got in an argument with J.D. Tippet, and it was Roscoe White. He saw his picture in the Texas Monthly magazine in December of 1990. A woman and her daughter came to sit one night about 10 o'clock. Said, I need to tell you something. I said, what's that? Said, I was working for one of Jack Ruby's attorneys. Matter of fact, I was married to him. And he was one of Jack Ruby's first attorney. And before the assassination, and after Jack Ruby killed Lee Oswald, Roscoe White was at our place every day, before and after the assassination, arranging what we were going to do with Jack Ruby.
One other witness, a woman, phoned Howard but told him she was scared to come to the center. When he met with her, Howard says she told him that her stepfather was one of Roscoe White's best friends and that Roscoe would come to their house to play cards. She said back then her stepfather was the director of one of the major funeral homes in Dallas, and he was also a reconstruction artist on bodies.
And at 12:35 on November 22nd, he was called from the funeral home and said he had to go directly to the Parkland Hospital. On Friday night, he didn't come home. Saturday, he came home very late and packed the family up, and then drove to Austin, Texas, which he called a safe house, and stayed. There's a guy that ran the safe house, had a big red beard, and had anti-Castro Cuban posters all over the walls. Sunday morning, they got up early, drove to San Antonio. He made the kids play out in the yard and watch TV. When Jack Ruby shot Lee Oswald, he went out the yard, said, we can go to Dallas now, it's safe.
The woman told Howard that she believed her stepfather altered Kennedy's body and later helped Roscoe White dispose of those who may have known or seen too much.
What makes it interesting, her stepfather was arrested in 1975. Now remember, he's a director of a funeral home, an expert in his field. He's arrested for conspiracy to commit murder. He tried to kill the wife of a deputy sheriff, tried to burn her to death. Hit her in the head with a hammer first and set her body on fire, where she survived, and ID'd him. And he called on the phone to his wife's stepdaughter, said, I'm in trouble, I need to see you. And they met with him for about 30 minutes, but he wouldn't tell him what for. Then he was arrested. In 1975, the day he was going to go to trial, as they were walking from the jail, the criminal courts building, to the courthouse, he was shot in the back by a police officer and killed on the day of the trial.
When Howard contacted the man's attorney, he says the attorney would not discuss the man or the incident with him at all. Howard says he has signed affidavits as well as videotaped each person who has come forward with information, and that he has obtained 65,000 signatures at the center to have this case reopened in Dallas.
We're in the process now of going to trial in Texas, in Dallas, about the assassination of John F. Kennedy, where it should have been investigated the first time. It was a Texas murder. In 1963, it was not a federal crime to kill the President of the United States. It is now. It's still on the books in Texas because there's no statute of limitations on homicide. So we have the right to do this ourselves through a grand jury investigation and subpoena the people that should have been subpoenaed in 64 and 76. So that's our intention this moment.
And who does Howard believe was behind the plot to kill Kennedy?
I can tell you what I think with the information I have. I think rogue elements of the CIA killed him with a mafia as a junior partner, And using Oswald as the patsy, Oswald never fired a shot, and it was covered up in the very top by J. Edgar Hoover, Allen Dulles, and Lyndon Johnson. And that's how it happens. This is what I know.
I think the puzzle is that here it is almost 30 years after the crime, and we still don't know who killed our president, and that our government has done everything within its power to keep us from knowing it. They have covered up the evidence, manipulated the evidence, destroyed the evidence, and they continue to do so even to this date.
On August the 6th of 1990, the JFK Assassination Information Center in Dallas, Texas, had a news conference that went worldwide. We had Rickie there to tell his story about his father, Roscoe White. The next day, in the newspapers in Dallas and all over the world, the CIA, the FBI, and the Dallas Police Department said Roscoe White was a nobody. We filed on the Freedom of Information Act to find out if this nobody had any FBI documents on it. If he was a nobody, he shouldn't have any.
But the FBI did have information on Roscoe White, a total of 46 pages. 26 of those were withheld because they were classified. And out of the 20 pages researchers did receive, 19 had been blacked out.
It's there, it's hard evidence. And like I said before, if someone's faked this story, that may be a bigger story than the Roscoe White story. Why?
The paper need to know the truth.
In the 3 years after the murders of President Kennedy and Lee Harvey Oswald, 18 material witnesses died. 6 by gunfire, 3 in motor accidents, 2 by suicide, 1 from a cut throat, 1 from a karate chop to the neck, 3 from heart attacks, and 2 from natural causes. An actuary engaged by the London Sunday Times concluded that on November 22, 1963, the odds against these witnesses being dead by February 1967 were 100,000 trillion to 1.
Another witness Larry Howard told me about says Lee Harvey Oswald was a good friend of his. The witness, Ron Lewis, says Oswald told him a man was being trained to kill the president and would be positioned in the Dallas Police Department through Jack Ruby's connections. Lewis, who worked for Oliver Stone on the movie JFK, has written a book about Oswald. In it, he writes, "When Lee told me that Roscoe White was going to be the assassin, I laughed and said something like, 'Indeed, Lee, a man named Roscoe is going to kill the president? What a funny name for an assassin.'" Lewis's book, Flashback, The Untold Story of Lee Harvey Oswald, was released to bookstores just last week. Our exclusive series, JFK, the West Texas Connection, will be back in a few short weeks. In the meantime, our research continues.
Live from the Permian Basin's 24-hour news leader, this is Big 2 News.
If I could have had my way, I would have liked to have seen him be president. He would have made a great president. But beyond that, he served his country and his state with enormous distinction, and we're all very proud to have known him.
Former President Richard Nixon is one of many political leaders in Austin today remembering former Texas Governor John Connally. But while many are paying tribute to the late governor, some believe his death could shed new light on the most famous murder mystery in the history of our country, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy almost 30 years ago. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Becky Neighbors. Former Governor Connally died Tuesday of respiratory problems. He was 76. It was November 22nd, 1963 in Dallas when Governor Connally was seriously wounded in the assassination of President Kennedy. Till the day he died, bullet fragments remained in Connally's body. These bullet fragments have federal and state officials debating the question over whether they should be removed from the body. Now, some believe the pieces could be the last missing piece to the puzzle as to who really killed JFK. Here are comments from Connally's brother, a Dallas FBI agent, and the Dallas District Attorney about this question.
Well, they would have to approach someone other than me because I wouldn't give it the time of day really to even ask Nellie to permit this to be done. And even if I did, I don't think that it would be forthcoming at all.
Well, I think it would be very helpful to the American public and to the overall resolution of the Kennedy assassination if we could undertake a procedure to recover that evidence.
This office does not intend to do anything about recovering the fragments from the body of John Connally.
Last month, in my series of exclusive reports, JFK, the West Texas Connection, I interviewed the director of the JFK Assassination Information Center in Dallas, Larry Howard. It is Mr. Howard who has written a letter to Governor Ann Richards and others asking that the bullet fragments be removed. Howard and other researchers believe the pieces could disprove the single bullet theory of President Kennedy's assassination. We hope to hear from Mr. Howard via telephone during a live interview. We are trying to get that set up right now. He has been inundated by reporters from all over the country trying to speak with him. We had been on the phone with him earlier and are trying to talk to him concerning his letter. But right now, it's Midlander Rickie White who says his father was one of multiple shooters that fateful day in Dealey Plaza when Kennedy was gunned down. Rickie is here tonight with me. And what do you think about Mr. Howard's letter asking that those bullet fragments be removed from Governor Connally's body, Rickie?
I believe it'd be a perfect opportunity to take consideration of my father's involvement in the JFK.
All right. Now, for those who did not get to see JFK, the West Texas Connection, a series of exclusive reports we did here only last month here on Big Two, refresh their memory, our viewers' memory of why you believe your father was involved.
Well, back in 1981, I'd found a diary that had belonged to my father that took many years to be able to come to a point and to realize that my father was involved in the JFK. In May of '88, the FBI took me serious, came in and interrogated, took me into town, then shortly went into involvement into the safe deposit box.
All right, if Mr. Howard and other researchers have their way and they are able to have these bullet fragments removed from the late governor, what do you think could come from all of that?
Well, it could be a good stepping stone to my father's story and the fact that we're trying to get people involved in my father's story to help come out the truth of the JFK.
All right. Thank you very much, Rickie, for being with us this evening.
Okay.
And as we've said, we will try to have more reports, JFK, the West Texas Connection, in weeks to come. We hope we are researching some more information and hope to have some more stories for you later on. Now, let's go to a break. We'll be right back. Hopefully, we can go to Mr. Howard live in Dallas. Maybe not, but we'll keep trying. Stay with it. All right, hopefully we do have this live interview of Mr. Larry Howard. He is the director of the JFK Assassination Information Center in Dallas. It is Mr. Howard who wrote this letter to Governor Ann Richards and others asking that bullet fragments be removed from former late Governor John Connally's body. Mr. Howard, I hope you're there on the telephone. Can you tell me about reaction to your letter so far there in Dallas?
Well, the reaction has been basically worldwide. Pretty much so. Everybody agrees that we're doing the right thing, except the Connally family. They refuse to do this. and they buried him this afternoon, and the fragments are still there.
Mr. Howard, can you tell me any reaction from the FBI or others?
Matter of fact, I just heard the FBI comments. They wanted the bullet fragments removed also, which is kind of unusual. I certainly don't want the FBI handling this evidence again, but their statement was that, yes, they would like the bullet fragments removed also.
All right, now I don't really have time to sit here and read this letter. We did receive a fax copy of the letter that you sent to the governor, and who else did you send this letter to, first of all?
I sent it to the Houston Medical Examiner's office. I sent it to the Dallas DA's office.
Okay, if you could summarize what you say in the letter. I don't want to sit here and read it. Can you just pretty much summarize what you said in it?
We're certainly sympathizing with the family at the time of John Connolly's loss, but we stated that we felt that the evidence in the case, the fragments in his wrist, would prove that the single bullet theory doesn't exist, which I don't think it ever did anyway. That was our point, but we also stated that Governor Connolly now has one last opportunity to tell us even more than he was able to in life, and prove for us and for history that he not only told the truth, but he was absolutely right. He himself said he was not hit by the bullet that hit John Kennedy.
All right, Mr. Howard, are you representing many researchers by sending out this letter? Is this just you or who?
No, actually, Dr. Sarah Wack, one of the top pathologists in the world, and myself sent the letter to Ann Richards and the other people. I would have not done this probably on my own without Dr. Sarah Wack's support.
All right, well, right now it doesn't look like it's going to happen for you folks who want the bullet fragments removed from the late governor's body, so where do you go from here?
Well, we are now in the process of retrieving the medical records of possibly the autopsy of Governor Connolly, records in the past months and years, maybe x-rays of the wrist. There's a bullet fragment still in the chest cavity, and also one in his left thigh. So we're going to request that we have access to all those medical records.
Mr. Howard, thank you for joining us. I hope you can call me back a little later. Maybe we can record some more interview and have that for our viewers tonight at 10 o'clock.